Clytus, I'm bored. What plaything can you offer me today?
An obscure body in the SK system. The inhabitants refer to it as the planet Earth.
How peaceful it looks. It must be annihilated. Send Rick and Danny on War Rocket Ajax. In 2013, Ming the Merciless, ruler of the known universe, declares the Earth to immediate termination. To accomplish this awesome decree, Rick and Danny are dispatched to the planet on War Rocket Ajax. The two encountered something they never thought they'd find, though. Movies. Stalled in their given task, Rick and Danny comb the movies of the Earth, sending reports of their greatness back to Mungo in what is now called the Hail Ming Power Hour. Well, hello everybody, and welcome back to a special episode of the Hail Ming Power Hour, where we talk about all of our favorite movies and we don't give a crap if you like them or not. I'm kidding. That's not true. We do care. That's the reason we want you to check these movies out. And boy, we got a humdinger of a show for you today because we got some also special guests in the house.
Also special guests.
Also special guests. So, down on the far end down there, my brother Mr. Danny Bennett. What's up, man?
I just have a disappearing hand trick. You know, I've been working on it, and sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't.
It goes right into Billy.
We're not going to go. That's not that kind of show. Not that kind of show. No, I'm thrilled to have some special guests on the ship, and also to talk about this movie. I think this movie's been a long time coming, as well as this collaboration.
Right.
We have gotten together once before in person, but
yes.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so you can tell we're in a different part of the ship. It's a bigger area because this is the first time we've actually had guests on the ship, and it is none other than Billy and Scott from Scary Dad Podcast, one of my favorite shows. Awesome to have these guys here.
We're excited to be here, and this has been a long time coming, man. It's like I've been watching you guys fly in the spaceship, and I've been like, man, I wonder what that spaceship looks like, and now to be here, it's like, woohoo! I'm afraid to push any buttons, but I'm sure you got me in the space where the buttons don't work, so I don't accidentally eject you or something. But I appreciate letting us come up and play for a while, and maybe we can annihilate something while we're at it.
Definitely glad to be here and glad to talk about one of our favorite movies also.
Yeah.
So
I think Scott's blown away by the number of stripper poles we have in the ship too. So.
Where are they at? Are they on break? When is Power Hour?
A guy's got to stay in shape.
So yeah, man, this is going to be awesome because we have talked about for, I don't know, probably 3 years going on now, maybe even longer than that, of, hey, man, we need to get together and talk about Friday the 13th, Part 6. I think across the board, you can see we're all already shaking our heads yes, because it's pretty much a favorite of ours. And for just special Halloween season, we thought this would be a perfect opportunity to launch this off and just talk about the greatness of this movie. So I want to talk about Scary Dad for a little bit. I believe, Billy, you kind of reached out before, and that's kind of how we made contact. And I think you were checking out the show. I was checking out y'all's show, and it just kind of became a great partnership or friendship at that point. And folks, I'm telling you, if you like Hail Ming, even if you don't like Hail Ming, and you're listening anyways for some reason, you're drunk or whatever the problem is, go check out Scary Dad, man, because they put on a fantastic show. I love it.
I really appreciate it, man. Yeah, Scary Dad has been, it has gone from a blog that I started a long time ago to then, a podcast. Then it turned into a little kind of vendor festival. And then it kind of, we have evolved and met some new people. And so then it turned into what is essentially going to rival Frightmare at some point in the next year or two. I mean, like rapid growth. And then because of a lot of the podcast stuff kind of got put on hold because Scott and I both started new employment this last year, as well as trying to run these events and sleep at some point and,
basically have a life every once in a while.
Yeah. And so, Scary Dad's been on a little bit of a break. We figured that was a better thing than doing a hey, we're back show every like 3 to 4 weeks and then not coming back for another 6 was kind of kind
of sounds like another show I know.
Hopefully, this is adulthood. Maybe things will settle down a little bit in the real life and we can get back into the because really and truly that was the easiest part of anything we were doing. We'd go over to Scott's house and we'd crack open a beer and talk about something fun. And it was anything from, movies to music to, the weekly world news, from when we were kids, like anything at all that was, we covered Disney princesses just because we did this, we did this one and it was like evil women, like when women snap out, like everybody blames men for being evil, but when women snap out, they go straight for the kids. It's really, really bad. So we did a whole episode on these psychotic women, like real life stuff. And we were so depressed. Yeah. Afterwards, we had to do a palate cleanser.
Something happy.
And so do something else. But yeah, we just cover every topic and just a couple of friends, like you guys are trying to stave off the end of the world. Like y'all have a mission. Yeah. We're just kind of hanging out, having fun. So
we're not trying to stave off the end of the world. I mean, the end of the world is what we've been sent here to do.
Right.
I just found reasons not to do it yet. But I'm just going to say you had me at you covered Disney princesses. That was
yes.
Among other choice words.
Well, the thing is, with kids, and this is what happens is you see something like in a meme that'll say, something about strong women or, Disney this or Disney that. But when you have kids and you've seen these things on infinite repeat and you know kind of how it really goes, then you're like, well, like, for example, in the first 5 minutes of Snow White, she's singing a song like, I wish my prince would come. And he rides up on a horse and says, hi. And she runs away. So
not that one.
The whole rest of the movie, you're kind of like, well, I don't have a whole lot of sympathy for you. Cause
yeah, you had it right there.
You asked him, he showed up and you blew
now
him
what?
Off. So yeah, those sorts of in-depth, important conversations, covering the important subjects of our time,
stuff.
So I don't expect you to remember the whole thing. You've done the show already. I just need to go check it out. The onus is on me now.
Yeah, it's on you. Go check it out.
So for you that don't know out there, if you go back a little bit, you're going, hey, this Billy's guy sounds very familiar. This voice is familiar to us because he and I did a show called You Know What's Awesome. We did, 50 episodes or so together? Mm-hmm. Something like that?
I think we did 51.
Yeah.
We missed that 52 to make it an official year.
Yeah.
but it's okay. We'll do that again. We'll do that one day.
Yeah. A super fun show, but that's the collaboration of these two worlds coming together. We get to see these guys every year, every 2 years at Texas Frightmare. So, there's just a great camaraderie between us here. So I can't think of a better group to have on here today to do this. So, unless y'all got anything else to say, we'll start looking at the movie.
Let's do it.
Do it.
All right. So to kick us off, another person. I mean, not only do we have our first guest on the ship, but we haven't had this star on our show in a while either, and I'm talking about crappy Christopher Walken.
Oh, Friday the 13th, Part 6. A year after the fake Jason Voorhees, Roy Burns, one of the paramedics who arrived at the scene of Joey's murder within the previous film, spoiler alert, was killed by Tommy Jarvis. Tommy headed to the real Jason's grave to finally rid himself of Jason for good. However, a sudden lightning strikes and resurrects Jason till he once again begins his murder spree. Returning to Camp Crystal Lake, now known as Camp Forest Green, Tommy initially tries to warn the police to no avail as he's viewed insane. Though it's up to Tommy to stop Jason all by himself, this time with the police hunting him down as well. Sounds like a classic cartoon of Tom and Jerry, where Tom is actually Tommy, Jerry the mouse is really Voorhees, and then the police is like that dog Spike. Good movie though. Hopefully part 7 comes out next week. Oh.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, I didn't know that the synopsis could be longer than the movie.
I like the Tom and Jerry parable there. That was. He's a thinking man. He's a thinking man.
Yeah.
That's genius.
That's something.
Well,
I never thought of it like that.
When you've got a timepiece up your butt, you got time to think. All right. So we're gonna jump right into this. I'm gonna let Danny take the brunt of this. Danny, give me your number one reason for watching your favorite Friday the 13th Part 6.
I'm sure we're all going to cover the same thing, so I'm not going to steal anybody's thunder on any of that. Steal thunder. See what I did there?
No.
I'm going to say, but my reason might be a little obscure. I think Megan in this movie really steals the show.
Amen.
Like, on rewatching it, I was like, you know what? There's a lot to go through in this, but Megan, like, she's more the hero than anybody in this movie.
I was gonna say, watching her, it's like you get the parables of the final girls, right? Like,
right.
Which, the morality of the horror movie that was covered in Scream. It's like, oh well, if you have sex, if you're the virgin, you'll survive. She didn't want to be. She, like, as soon as she saw Tommy, she's like, hey baby.
Yeah.
Like, as soon as we can sneak off in the woods, and you almost think that it's gonna be Paula, the one that's taking care, because she's kind of the good girl,
right? Yeah.
But yeah, Megan's the final girl, but she's got. It's not because she wants to be. Like, she wants to get down and dirty in the woods and
when you first
get her some Tommy.
Like, when you first really get like a one-on-one with her, she's talking to her father, the sheriff, and she's just railroading the conversation. She's entertaining, she's smart, she's fearless, she's got an awesome car, and she latches onto the truth of the whole movie like before anybody else. Well, except maybe Tommy, who kind of lived it, so he already was there. But I'm going to say my first reason is Megan. She chews up the scenery whenever she's on.
All right, awesome. Well, Scott's been holding back all this time.
Oh Lord, here we go.
Scott, go ahead. Give us a reason here.
I'll start silly at first, because when I first watched this movie, one of the things that caught me back when I was a kid is this was my first introduction to the world of paintball.
Yeah.
Paintball had only been around for like 5 years when this movie came out. Little me in New Iberia, Louisiana, I had no idea that shit existed. So whenever the paintball scene happened, it was just, I was like, what are they doing? And why are they doing it? But it was just, that whole scene is so good. And that scene kind of sets the tone for the direction the franchise was going to go.
Right.
Because one, the scene was very brutal. Two, the scene was so campy. You have the happy face kill where he slams the guy into a tree, and when he falls back, there's a perfect happy face just covered in blood in the tree. And then the camera pans, and Jason is holding the guy's arm. He actually ripped the guy's arm off with one throw. So that one scene right there, you have the initial scene where, the movie starts, but that scene really sets the tone of how this movie's going to go.
They all got headbands on that say dead. Like
Yeah.
they've all got the headbands that say dead on them, and they're all arguing in the woods. Yeah, this.
Oh man,
And the misogynistic tone of the office workers, the way they were talking about women and everything, it was just, it just gave it a goofy feel for a moment where they were.
It's almost like Police Academy or something.
Right, exactly. Yeah. Well, it's also it's got that campy adventure adventure movie music.
Right, with the little snare drum and the kind of paramilitary sound. Yeah.
And how about the guy that's so pissed off because the girl shot him? He's out there. No, I lost to a woman.
He's got this stainless steel machete that's like a bright polished silver. It's crazy, man.
All right, Billy, what you got?
I got Worms, man.
Oh yeah,
Eyeball Worms.
Yeah,
I remember the trailer. So back before the internet, there used to be a channel on cable that played previews for movies, and I remember that, it would just be the trailers, and it would show trailers for stuff like Pretty Woman or Batman or what, it's like, but 24 hours a day, it was just movie trailers. And I remember seeing this trailer, and that was in the trailer. The worms coming out of the eyes and just being like, oh man, I have got to see this. Like this is gnarly. This is awesome. So, he's all dead. And even when Tommy's beating up the body, there's not a whole lot of body left, it's just like a scarecrow almost. And then, when he sits up and he's got worms like falling off his face, it's just like, dude, that is, it's a small touch, but it's effective. It's really, really cool. Oh, I don't think Jason ever looked as scary as he did as whenever he's maskless and worms are falling off of him before he takes care of some business. To me, that's an awesome scene right there.
They dashed a little Lucio Fulci in there on us. That's what they did, But come on. The whole opening scene is a 100, man. It is one of the greatest openings to any movie I can think of in the horror world. It's just so fantastic. And I did write this down. I said, even though Jason's been dead for, who knows, 10, 15 years at this point, from the time Tommy's grown up, but the tombstone and the casket look like they're over 100 years old.
It's been vandalized by the town folk.
Well, also the gravestone's like this big too.
Right.
So if you ever go to a cemetery, headstones are, pretty big size. And even in that cemetery, like the headstones are all the same size. And then there's Jason's. It's all like,
well, nobody would pay for it. So,
well, true.
All right. First on my list, I've got, it just basically says Super Jason, right? So we've taken the Jason of the past, and now we've given him super strength, the ability to walk as slow as he wants and still get there before anybody else expects. It's just, it makes him the unstoppable beast. But I'm going to change my first reason, even though I love Super Jason. But next one is what I've got on here. Basically says, Megan, the sheriff's daughter, is hot.
So
that's all I got to say
on Megan. You got to,
Yeah,
it's awesome.
Yeah. I like how you managed to throw your first reason and my first reason and your first reason.
Hey, we do a show together, dude.
No, man, I agree. But what I want to say about this intro scene too, because so I'm not super familiar with the Friday the 13th. I've seen them all at some point or another, but 6 was the one I saw first because my friend Waddell had the Scrambler box in his house, and they were playing part 6 on pay-per-view. So we probably watched it like 10 times a day for a good 2 weeks. And so for that reason, it was my introduction to it. So I'm really kind of surprised when I went back and watched before this that Jason wasn't always a super monster.
Right.
And so I was reading back to make sure I was, kind of up on my facts. And I read that they were trying to can the whole series with, that's why part 3 was going to be the finale and part 4 was the final chapter. And part 5 was what? The
New Beginnings.
Driver, yeah.
Roy, yeah.
And they tried to make it somebody other than Jason. But Jason basically, as a character in these people's movies, beat their attempts to kill him in real life.
Yeah.
They were like, hey, we made this movie for 2.2 million, and then we made 25 million, and then we made another one for 2.2 million, and we made 36 million. We can't can this character. Right. So they just had him resurrected like Frankenstein's monster at the beginning of part 6 and said, just run with it, man. This is all you. And we'll make this campy paintball thing and all that stuff. I mean, so that's why this movie it just didn't care anymore. They couldn't kill him and they knew it.
Well, that's one thing that I wrote down is one thing this movie demonstrates, and one reason why I think it's one of the more important movies of the franchise, honestly, out of all of them, is it demonstrated the power of the fandom.
Yeah.
By the time you got to part 4, Jason had taken over the movies. Originally, it was supposed to be not a horror anthology, but an anthology series where each movie was going to be a different subject. And by the time that they let Jason become too endearing to everybody, and he was the franchise. You couldn't get rid of him after that. And after the fans went crazy over Roy in part 5, they were like, okay, we got to figure out a way to resurrect this guy and bring him back. And that totally set the tone for the rest of the franchise, because you never would have guessed. I remember when I was 13, me and my cousin used to make home movies with his VHS camera. And we had made a parody of Friday the 13th called Friday the 13th Part 8. Because in our minds, they're never going to get to Part 8. That was the joke. And, 12 movies in the franchise later, and we're still here talking about Jason Voorhees. So he is Friday the 13th, and they had to bring him back. Otherwise, the fans weren't going to have it.
I want to see your parody because it's probably better than Jason Takes Manhattan.
What's funny is
I've seen it. It's good.
The original, we had to write down the credits on loose leaf paper and not even typed out. It was handwritten. And my cousin, since then, he makes short films. He totally re-edited with new graphics and stuff.
Nice.
And he actually has a soundtrack now with it and everything. So it's pretty cool.
That's awesome. We got to check that out.
It's funny, dude. It's
I was one of those guys that was upset about part 5. I mean, part 5 is brutal. It's got some of the best kills, I think, but the whole ambulance driver thing just really took me out of it. But you would think, to everybody's point here, is wouldn't they have learned that lesson from Halloween? Because they kind of tried to do the same thing,
and they had to bring Mike back.
Right.
Well, and that's one of those things, because part 5 was one of the first. It was the first one I ever saw.
Yeah.
And so I didn't really have much of a reference or whatever, but I was always sympathetic to part 5 because in reading about it, you heard the Paramount pretty much, they whenever they made part 3, they're like, so they made part 2 and they're like, okay, that's successful. While it's on in the premiere, they call and be like, hey, make part 3. And then they did the same thing for part 4. And then they're like, okay, well, we can't go any further with this. And so then for making part 5, they told them that they could do anything they wanted, except they couldn't have Jason Voorhees. Jason's dead. So do something else. And so I'm sitting there being like, imagine being a screenwriter in 1984 and you're told you're going to make the next, summer blockbuster that's, but you have to do anything but use the main character. It's like, poor guy, man. He's completely pilloried. But, but hey, it opened the door to bring part 6 and the rest of the franchise out. So it worked.
And with the way they brought him back in part 6, it was, you could make infinite movies now. You could just keep bringing them back over and over and over again.
You put them in space.
Yeah, send them to hell.
That's exactly what Scott was saying. You set that precedent up for, you can carry this thing on forever now because now he's an entity, right? I mean, you can't kill him off, It's a shame because it's almost like the well kind of ran dry with some of the ideas. It's like, man, they could have had a lot more ideas, but anyways, that's a different story. All right, where are we at? Bo Danny, back to you.
So, okay, now we talked about the intro, and that's, I didn't want to steal anybody's.
You didn't say that.
The intro is awesome.
Yes.
And it's, you watch it, it's kind of like the beginning of Ninja 3, the Domination. It's like once you stop through that intro, you're ready for the walls to tear off.
Right.
But then they finish the intro, and I've got to say it with that 007 thing, where Jason walks across his own, it's got the gun barrel intro,
right?
And and then he slashes it with the machete, and it's just,
well,
or maybe with a knife.
It's his eye. It focuses in on his eye, and he's walking in his eye. But it's straight up James Bond, no doubt.
Yeah.
And and again, it just points out how seriously they're taking it, which isn't seriously at all.
Yeah, not at all. They were having fun with it, and that's it.
And it shows.
That's why we're talking about it, right? I mean,
and I almost wonder if, because the year before Return of the Living Dead came out, and it was a huge hit, incredibly campy, and I almost wonder if that was kind of an influence with the new direction of Friday the 13th, where it's like, hey, you can make a scary, gory movie and have a lot of fun with it too, because you got Tom Matthews, in both of them.
Reanimator, Return of the Living Dead. I mean, you were starting to see this turn. Fright Night, where there was a lot of fun being had in these flicks. And I think, that whole roller coaster experience we talk about, this is exactly why we're talking about it. It's a fun movie.
It had always been done as far as the independent horror movies in the 80s, but at this point, the major studios were realizing, we could do the same thing. And, it draws a wider audience. It's not just the hardcore horror fans. You can have people that want to have fun with the movie too.
Yeah, without a doubt.
And it stopped being a whodunit. You didn't have to have, and maybe Scream, like years down the line, brought that element back and said, you don't know who the killer is, and that's part of the titillation of the movie. But at this point, it was just like, hey, why do we care who the killer is? Let's just watch him kill people.
Well, you start rooting for Jason. I mean, that's the thing is you're along for the ride because yes, that camp leader needs to die. So
it's just a matter of it's a matter of how it's going to be done, and then Tommy coming in and being like, Jason's back. Like, I'm not exactly sure because they don't really mention it. They mention that Jason's been dead for however long. They don't really mention the bloodbath that Roy Burns did,
right?
But like. Jason hasn't been back since part 4.
Yeah.
And then if you look at the timeline, which it doesn't make a tremendous amount of sense, but the events of part 2, 3, and 4 are all over the course of like 2 days.
Yeah.
So it's like there was one massacre that happened, in multiple places, by Jason, and then Jason dies, and then Roy Burns has his, spree. And then this is however much longer, but Jason's been dead for a good long time by the time part 6 comes around. So, of course they're not going to believe him. And he's the one that let him out. So, of course they're not,
that's what I got on here, man. The sheriff not falling for the Jason crap, right? I mean, he's standing there looking at bodies that are tore all to pieces, bodies laid partially. He's like, boy, he sure wants us to believe that Jason story. Like, I ain't buying it.
And that guy's got some great lines.
Yeah, he does.
You wanna roll that?
Oh, well, I do have a sound bite, but I'll just go ahead and roll this into my next reason. It's not the sheriff; it's the deputy. Oh. This guy reads with the zeal of someone who's reading lines. I mean, and just to indicate exactly how poorly acted this character is and how ridiculously written, I grabbed just one interaction that he has, and I just did the soundbite for it. So if you roll that, then here's Deputy Rick.
I'll get it
Rick.
for you, babe. Hey! Hey, get your hands off her, animal! You little turd! I ought to punch you silly.
Let him out of there, Rick.
Megan, don't clown around.
I'm gonna punch you in the face!
I'm gonna punch you silly. It's like they just told him to ad lib or something. It's really bad.
And that gigantic mail order laser light that he was so proud of. It was the length of the entire barrel. It was like, you couldn't see the light. You had to go on the side of the laser light to be able to even see where the light was going. It's crazy, man.
And she's got the laser light on. She's got the laser sight on him from like 18 inches away. If you have to have it at that range, but then again, she's not the deputy. But yeah, Deputy Rick is definitely a reason to watch the movie, just because whenever he comes on, it's hilarious, unintentionally hilarious.
Scott, throw us another one, man.
Well, going off of that vibe, let's talk about the drunk caretaker who completed high school and deserves that damn job. And I love the fact that it once again sets that tone for the campiness when he totally breaks the fourth wall and looks in the camera and goes, the things these kids enjoy for entertainment. And then just goes right back to work. It's crazy, man.
Do you guys want to hear that sound clip? Because that's my second one.
I know I'm going to get blamed for this. Say old Martin ain't a good caretaker. Hell, I'm a damn high school graduate. I deserve this job. I earned it. Nobody's gonna find out. Kids couldn't even stick them back in right. Well, I ain't gonna touch this slimy sucker. Why'd I have to go and dig up Jason? Some folks have a strange idea of entertainment.
That's all I had. It just so happens that they're there together. But yeah, I mean, he's great. I guess they got rid of the "you're doomed" guy.
Yeah, that guy died.
Somebody so
this guy got graduated. Like,
it'd been funny if they would have carried that character though from the first with the "you're doomed" guy through the rest of the series, and be like, Friday the 13th Part 2, you're still doomed.
Dude, you're all doomed.
All right, Billy, drop us another one, man.
I like how Jason just kind of pops out of nowhere to take out those old crazy coots too.
Oh yeah,
like he's over here doing Jason stuff with teenagers, and then there's a scene with the old caretaker, and then just like, oh, we got to get rid of that guy. It was like stab real quick and then go back over to his business. Like,
and not just that,
he does it in Part 2 as well.
You got some random couple in the middle of the woods having a romantic dinner. Where the hell did they come from? He's got a suit on with tennis shoes and they're sipping champagne. And where are you from?
I thought I missed something. I was like, who are these people? I rewound it. I was like, were they introduced before? Or
just had to have the body count, man, because everybody else is kids, Give us
American
you got another
Express, man.
Got us another one, Billy?
Express.
I got
the American Express
right here. Yes.
Don't leave home without it.
Obviously, I mean, that's one of those Wayne's World moments where it's product placement of a type, although you don't understand how it's gonna help them either survive being killed by Jason. Except for maybe if they had survived getting killed by Jason, they could use it to fix their car. But yeah, the random American Express card floating in the pool next to the dead woman's face, you're just kind of like, and it's a close. I mean, it was intentionally done.
It was intentional, yes. It was funny as from the first time I've seen this movie as a kid to when I watched it before this show. Every time that scene happens, to myself, I say, never leave home without it.
So I like I said, I didn't want to be completely novice on this, so I did do some reading on it, and that was one of the things that was mentioned was the American Express card. It was some kind of lampoon of an advertising campaign they had at the time. I wasn't in the credit card market in 1986 when I was 12. So I don't know.
Well, they used to have these commercials on where just people in different situations where they wouldn't accept their diners club, and somebody else would pull out an American Express and be like, "This is the card you want to have," And the tagline was, "Don't leave home without it."
Leave home without it. Yep.
And so, lampoon or not, it doesn't make sense in context of the commercials. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It would have made more sense, I guess, as like I said, if they had survived, if one of them had gotten away and they were like needing to get their car fixed, they're like, "Oh, we don't accept American Express." Like that would have made sense.
Maybe if it had been a Diners Club card,
right?
Because Jason didn't accept it, he killed her anyway.
I think it's just making fun of the fact of don't leave home without it, but it doesn't matter in this case. It's pointless, right? Even you got the money and the credit card, and But still, the fact that it just stays on that credit card for a good 20 seconds. You're just like, okay.
And I love that that's one of those first metas, that self-awareness, where she's like, anytime you see a guy in the woods with a mask, I know he's up to no good. You know, they know they're not being like, oh, hey, let's look deeper into this. They're like, put it in reverse. Like, let's let's get out of here.
I'm thinking that Darren and Elizabeth might be two of the best actors in the movie too. They were pretty good.
Yeah.
I really like the "You ain't Dirty Harry" line. You know, get back in the car. You ain't Dirty Harry. It's so good. It's so good. But then when she gets stabbed and it's like bubbling up from where her head was, I don't even know how you prepare for a scene like that.
Oh, man. I do love the fact that his first murder weapon that he's carrying all this time is the thing that brought him back to life. He just kind of ran with it. I like that, man. You know, he picks some dude up by the groin and just flips him over his head. I mean, it's just so fun, man. Actually, my next one basically says all killer, no filler. This movie feels like it goes by in about 30 minutes. There's no bull crap. There's not a lot of character development. It's in and out. Even the kill scenes are fast. Sling dude into a tree, smash his face, holding his arm, next scene. I mean, it's just, it doesn't dwell on the effects like we're used to seeing where they're taking somebody's head and slowly twisting it. I mean, it's like, wham, done.
Yeah.
And that's pretty much is the pulse of this whole movie, man. I mean, they killed Arnold Horseshack like that.
Oh yeah. Dude, and that punch through the body, like, that was a popular way of, like, that was in Missing in Action. Like, there was a lot of 80s movies where somebody died with a good punch through the body like that.
Yeah.
So that was an awesome little punctuation mark on the 80s action movies and horror movies and stuff.
You know? I mean, can't help but think of Indiana Jones, right?
Exactly, you know.
So it's just you talking about upset too, because I love to sweat hogs, you know. I didn't want to see Horseshack die.
Didn't Gandhi do that in Gandhi too?
Yeah, he did. Gandhi too.
Yeah.
Cook me a steak, medium rare. Oh, all right, Danny. That goes back to you, man.
Is it back to me already?
Yeah.
Okay.
Why not?
All right. I got the drunk caretaker. Got paintball mayhem. Man, it's such a good like. But okay, we got to pour one out right now for old Court and Nikki. How about that? The Winnebago sex scene, which, you know, as a 12-year-old, I'm sure that I watched more than my share of times. There's really nothing to it as far as like, there's no nudity. There's, you know, the heavily implied sex and bad music. But I mean, it's sex in a Winnebago.
Well, that whole scene from beginning to end is just awesome. It just with, you know, Alice Cooper's Teenage Frankenstein playing while he's driving, a reference to the reanimated Jason. Just that whole scene is just great. And Darcy DeMoss, how can you not like her? She still looks very beautiful, by the way. It's a killer scene. The kills are awesome when he smashes her face through the wall, and it's a great scene.
And I
love how back there taking the dump.
Yeah, and that's, I mean, her face in relief from the outside of the van.
Yeah.
Like, that is physically impossible, but awesome.
Right. It was more of the idea of the scene than it was an actual. I mean, like, because they had to jack the actress up to, but I agree. And, you know, as far as like the driving part of that scene, you know, because I was only thinking of the first part of the scene, but yeah, you're right. The kill, it was great because they didn't have too many lines for Court. He was just like, "This is great." Like,
this is great.
Turn the radio up, man.
She's in the back going, "Oh no!" It's like, "Hey, this is great." It's
this
like,
is just the
we
best.
just got to do this a few more times. This is great. And around the time I'm going, man, they need to come up with a new line for this guy. That's when he says, "What are you doing, taking a dump?" And I'm like, why did I ask? Why did I ask for a new line? Because it only got worse from there.
So next on my list actually says the sequel to Flashdance, sex dance. Oh, you're just the best. He's like, how much longer? All to the song ends.
The song.
Another 10 minutes.
Was the song like Animal or something? Like that wasn't Alice Cooper. It wasn't Alice Cooper until he started driving. It was.
Oh, yeah, good stuff, man. All right, Scott. Oh, sorry.
I was gonna say, and then Jason, without any, like, they're driving down the road like 50 miles an hour, and he's like, "Hey, check this out!" Stab you in the head, like completely crashed the van, like the Winnebago, just like whatever, dude. I'm immortal. I got no worries.
Just crawled out of the top, kept on going. All right, Scott.
Okay, let's see where I want to go next. I got a couple more. We'll go ahead and go with this one. Jason's new fashion sense. Jason actually took time to put a wardrobe together. He's got his utility belt with all the pockets on it. He's very nicely pressed the whole time. His shirt never slips out of the belt. I mean, his shirt is just his outfit is perfect the entire movie. He's got on his nice work gloves now. It's interesting the direction they went with that. He looked great, I got to say.
Especially since those coveralls have been underground with him for like the last 10 years or whatever.
And they got stabbed about 12 times.
Exactly. He had so many pockets. I was like, what is he going to pull out next? I kept waiting for something new, like a bolo or something. But he only pulled the knife out. That was it. He had his Rambo knife that he pulled out, and that was about it.
He's kind of like a handyman, too, walking around the camp like, oh, you need something fixed? I'll fix this window and kill everybody inside. You know?
He's suicidal Snyder, right? Homicidal Snyder. Well, I mean, and again, it's that 80s thing, right? You're coming out of the Rambo age. So to have all the tactical stuff on you and ready to go, why wouldn't a serial killer have that, right? Yeah. I need some more for my piano wire. Yeah, good stuff. All right, Billy.
I'm gonna say Exploding Paula.
Yes,
dude, she's the one. Like we talked about Megan, and she didn't have a chance to be bad in the woods, although she would have had to take. She tried a couple times. But Tommy was in jail and she didn't really. But Paula was the good girl. She was the one that stayed behind. She's watching the children. She didn't go off to have sex in the woods. She didn't go off to to check out what. And when Jason gets a hold of her, man, you don't really see her death on screen. But when she runs out the door and he grabs her and pulls her back in, and then later on you see the inside of her cabin. Yeah. However it is that she got taken out, he shook her around to the inside of that cabin, because it is brutal, man.
Yeah,
like that is like one of the hard. I mean, even though you don't see her on, actually get killed on screen, however it was left to the imagination, that's probably one of the worst ones. Because that's a rough one. Yeah. So. And then, every now and then they pop into that cabin and everybody, whoa, so whatever happened in here was not good. And they close the door and go somewhere else.
Well, yeah. And to your point, it kind of breaks the rules, doesn't it? Like she's the one that by the rules of morality should survive.
Right.
Mm-hmm. And she's killed as an afterthought.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, and again, it goes back to talking about just the speed of this film. They don't waste any time. Just like ramming the girl's head through the side of the Winnebago and stuff. It doesn't matter if it makes sense or not. It's just bang. You can't question his abilities because now he's got the super strength. So, it could happen. It's kind of where you put. So, that's what I love about this movie. All right. My next reason. Megan. She's hot. Did I mention that before? It's going to be a hairy turn.
I don't think you mentioned that one before, dude. Yeah. That's actually a really good point.
Just saying. I'm a guy.
I didn't notice. I mean, I'll have to rewatch it to check it out, but I take your word for it.
Yeah, when she first pops in, she's wearing that little black blouse. I'm like, yeah.
What's your name, girl?
How you be doing?
I like the little game she plays with her fellow counselors too, where she's like telling the story of Jason and did he come back to avenge his mother's horrible beheading? And then she does the whole. There's one thing scarier. And she points to the school bus
Kids.
full of campers.
Yeah.
And then the bus driver and the assistant, she's like, "You can have them." She kicks them out, shuts the door, and they're gone. I don't know what the kids did. I mean, they didn't seem all that bad.
And they were so unprepared to receive a busload of kids. I mean, the groceries weren't even put up. You know, they were just all hanging out in the kitchen, and they dumped 30 kids in the front yard. Here you go. Have fun. Take care of these kids. We trust you. Don't worry.
How about the two little boys that are kind of your reference back all the time? I say we're pretty screwed, dude. What were you going to be when you grew up?
Yeah, like completely fatalistic. Like, no hope. Just like, hey, what did you want to be when you grew up? Like, because we're not.
There's no real palpable fear either. It's just kind of like, of course, they're like Statler and Waldorf over here, like, talking about the movie, like even not realizing they're in it.
Yeah, that's another point. Just with the kids, I know Kane Hodder had actually mentioned this to Billy before. Is we learned in this movie that Jason doesn't mind kids. Kids can be. I'm not going to kill them. I just want teenagers and adults.
Right.
The kids are good to go.
Well, he was a kid when he died, so it may be
exactly.
Like
he's got the connection. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So, that's a good point. I never thought about that either. Because you got the little girl that's praying, right? That he goes away.
Yeah, he just walks away.
Yeah. So,
I told Kane Hodder, I was like, man, when I was a kid, I was scared to tell you. He's like, you shouldn't have been. I didn't kill any kids. But I didn't realize that was C.J. Graham. And
CJ in that one.
Yeah.
He's a cool guy too.
Kane Hodder's awesome.
Yeah, he's a trip, man.
Yeah, you've met him, so you probably know. But like when you get a selfie picture with him, and he's like, "I'm gonna choke you," and he doesn't tell you that he's really gonna choke you. At least that's
he had
what
to start dialing it back a little bit because some people had complained about it. I think he had to actually try to dial it back a little bit. Yeah, because he was some people were freaking out whenever he would start doing it.
It was scary. Like I met him, and he's like, "Yeah, get a picture of me choking you," and I'm like, "Oh, okay." He did great, and he grabbed my neck with a vice grip, just choking me. I'm like, oh my god, it's a great picture though. It's a great picture.
Hey, Daddy, remember the first year we met him? I don't remember who the guy was that was there. We were taking his picture though, but every time he would strangle him, the guy would have his eyes closed, so we had to keep taking the picture. So he just kept strangling him over and over to the point that Kane Hodder was just getting like, crap, man, hurry up, get this done with. And the guy would just be like. Every picture.
It's a real reaction.
Yeah.
Tony Todd yelled at me because I wanted him to put a Wishmaster quote on a Candyman picture. I was like, "Will you say the
name's Valentine?"
And he did, but he was like, "For this movie?" I'm like, it's not that movie, but this is a better picture. And he was like, "Oh, okay." That dude, he shook my hand, and it was like my hand. I felt like a baby because his hand is so huge. That dude's humongous.
Oh, hey! One other thing we haven't talked about yet, and I don't know if it's on anybody's list, but I'm gonna go ahead and say it. Man, when Jason kills the sheriff,
dude,
folded him in half.
Yes.
That is what stands out to me in my mind when I hear part 6. That's the image that pops in my head. Yeah.
What's funny is the sheriff was working him. The sheriff was getting the best of him. Then all of a sudden, Jason said, "Okay, let's finish this real quick." It just in one motion, bam.
And again, that's why we watch these things, right? Show me something I haven't seen. Well, I'll tell you what, we haven't seen that in a movie before. That was pretty dang awesome.
I guess when I think of kills in this one, I still think I guess him ripping off dude's arm and taking the machete. Like that's the one that sticks out for some reason. Maybe because it's so close to him beheading those 3 people at the same time. It's kind of like he kills all the paintball people like super fast.
Yeah.
Well, and then when he kills Sissy, he doesn't just break her neck. He spins her head off of her body and just lifts it up.
Throws it in the cop car. Oh. Anybody else got other ones?
Okay, I got one more thing that I had never even noticed this until I watched it before this show, but I thought I did a little bit of a deep dive, which I won't get too much into the deep dive, but the books that pop up in this movie are actually pretty cool. There's a part where Tommy goes to the store and he buys these books that he's going to use to figure out how to kill Jason. These are books that actually exist. And there's the big one that I found was Manual of the Occult, which is a book that came out in 1914. And there's another book that he picks up. I can't remember the name of that one now. I didn't write it down. It's over there on my phone. But it's a book from the 1940s about this psychiatrist he came up with a theory that people's mental illness was actually developed through spirits that were possessing them and stuff, which I thought was pretty cool. But also at the beginning of the movie, when the kids first get there, the first night they're all sleeping and they're panning around the room, and you have one kid, he's sleeping with a picture of his parents on his pillow. Another kid, he has a stuffed animal and all this stuff. And then you see this little girl about 10 years old. She has fallen asleep while reading a book. The book is Jean-Paul Sartre's No Exit, which is a 1940s French philosophical play about these three guys trapped in hell in the same room, which I thought was just so cool to see that. You can see what they're trying to say, and I'd never noticed that before until this last time watching it.
I wrote it down too because I saw it, and they focus on it long enough. And I was like, hey, what does that kid have?
But yeah, I just thought that was there's some of the symbolism they have in there. It's a campy movie, but they also threw some things in there that, really, really make it a great movie. This movie is just so important to the franchise, the way it was set up. I mean, it's
no doubt. Levels.
No doubt.
Yes.
Yeah. Billy, you got any more, man?
I want to say that the sheriff has some great, he's got some great lines, and they're all about how much he hates Tommy.
He just does not like that guy.
I mean, the second thing he says to him, he's like, "Calm down, or I'm going to repaint this office with your brain." And then he says, "With all the grief you've caused me, you should be leaving. You should be leaving wearing your balls as earrings."
Well, he's a protective father. I mean,
if I had you where I want you, they'd be pumping your ass full of formaldehyde. I mean,
that's a great one. That is a great
These
one.
are things that the main law officer is saying to this disturbed gentleman. But yeah,
first blood. His first blood. Just all he wanted was a hamburger.
Well,
all I wanted to do was.
what's the whole point of the sheriff in this too? You got a good point, Billy, because the sheriff just wants to take him and drop him off at the end of town. It's first blood, man.
He doesn't want any trouble.
Yeah,
he doesn't want any trouble.
Yeah, again, just the fact of the sheriff seeing all those body parts in the rings. Boy, he sure wants us to buy in on that Jason story.
He's trying to convince us, but no, I'll never be convinced it was him.
But the funny thing is, though, because if you think that Tommy's the one that's doing it, and you see the carnage that he's, you would think that his demeanor towards Tommy would be a whole lot more guns drawn. Let's go get this guy.
Exactly.
But instead, it's just like, hey, you keep saying it's Jason. It's not Jason. It's, you know what I mean?
I don't believe you.
Yeah. We still don't believe you, man.
All I know is you're messing around with my daughter, and that's the most important thing. Because Megan is hot.
Yes, that's it.
Oh, the whole scene where they're being chased and he ducks down with his head between her legs was just, as a kid, that was pretty awesome. As an adult, that's pretty awesome, actually.
Of course, when they switched the roles earlier or later on, where he's driving, I was like, "Uh-oh, we're going to get payback."
I see where this is going.
You might want to put your head down. They know I'm in here.
You may want to put your head down. Why? Why not?
We don't have much longer to live.
We're all going to die. I can't think of a better way to go.
What about the Camp Blood, Camp Crystal Lake, Camp Forest Green thing?
What parent in their right mind would still send their kids to this camp?
right?
I mean, I don't care what you call it.
Was it Camp Blood? And then they changed the name to Camp Crystal Lake, and then they changed the name to Camp Forest Green, or was Camp Crystal Lake?
It was Camp Crystal Lake originally.
Okay.
And then
Camp Blood is just what all the kids called it.
Right. And then yeah, but that was not when did Camp Blood show was because again, part 2, 3, and 4 all happened over the course of a night.
Yeah.
Or like a couple of days. So and in two they were going to reopen it, and they were calling it Camp Blood because of the events from part 1. So in part 1 it was Crystal Lake. Part 2 the kids were calling it, and I think it was it Forest Green, or was something else in part 2. It wasn't Crystal Lake. It was the camp formerly known as Crystal Lake, but it was not Crystal Lake in part 2.
It was a symbol. It was just a symbol. That was
just a symbol.
Ming.
And then in part 3 and 4, because part 3 happened at the barn, at the farmhouse for the most part.
Yeah.
And part 4 happened up and down the road and in different spots, but none of it was to do with camp. Part 5 was at the institution and just in the town. So like Camp Crystal Lake only features heavily in part 1, 2, and 6.
Yeah.
And then, so Forest Green, I guess, rebranding. Because, I mean, you still have a lake there.
Right.
I mean, right. Like, you still have hunting and you still have kayaking and, just because a whole lot of people died. Like,
well, and presumably for, 363 days out of the year, it's a pretty safe place.
Yeah, exactly.
Just check the date. That's all.
Or until some drifter comes into town and digs up your formerly
great intro.
Formerly dead,
great intro.
masked maniac. Just no, we got him where we want him. We know where he is. He's right there. It's like, no, I'm going to dig him up and show you. Like, let him out.
I'm going to stick this metal rod during this lightning storm in his chest, and then we're going to argue for a little while. Nothing bad can happen. Don't worry.
What's the worst that can happen?
But see, that's even God wanted Jason to come back, because like as soon as Tommy was about to flip, strike the match, the rain started, and it was like God wanted part 6 to happen. God's like, check this out. Screw that part 5 stuff.
That's awesome.
In real life, Jason Voorhees beat the production company. The production company didn't want him. In real life, Jason Voorhees won. That's a pretty amazing thing if you think about it. Just like you said, it's the fans. But I mean, it's not even like now with the internet where everybody has a pretty loud amplifier. It was like the money talked. When they made movies, they still made money, but they made money on the pretense that Jason would come back, and they knew it.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, you already got the franchise rolling. You can almost do whatever you want to with it and it be somewhat successful. So you pump less money into it, and you're going to ride that so long. I mean, to me, it's like Nightmare on Elm Street. The movies that made the most money are almost like my least favorites of the franchise, because it was so big of a thing at the time. It didn't matter if the movie was bad or not. I call it the Phil Collins syndrome. Right? It seemed like in the 80s, if you just said, hey, Phil Collins played tambourine on this song, you had a top 10 hit, And that kind of became the problem with these movies is, you kind of got gypped because they knew that people were going to go see it regardless. Even if it was just a one hit kind of deal where you're only going to go watch it one time because you're going to walk out going, it's the freaking ambulance driver, right? Kind of like Scream 2, right? It was great till you get to the end. It's like, well, remember the guy from the first movie? I'm his upset mom, and this is just some random guy that decided to help me do this stuff because he's got nothing else to do. I mean, that's what you come up with?
Your main hint was that he was the sequel guy. He was the guy that said sequels are good, so you're like, oh, obviously this is the guy.
It's just lame. So, but yeah, I mean, so what Scott said earlier is dead on, man. This breathed a whole new life into Friday the 13th. I think when people think of Friday the 13th and Jason as a whole, they think of this Jason, right?
Yes, very much so.
This from this point on, this Jason.
And the thing to me too, because Scott and I in our horror movie discussions have always had that. Scary is obviously it's on a spectrum, you know, like what's scary to me may not be scary to you. And, you know, it's like, you know, not a big fan of The Exorcist. Never really scared me. Like, I think it's cool, but it's not the most frightening movie that I've ever seen by far. But, you know, Psycho 3 disturbed me a lot when I was a kid. Like, there's just certain scenes in there just kind of make, you know what I mean? So, like, yeah, you can't really base quality filmmaking to what's scary, to what is visceral or reaction or whatever. But this manages to be scary in with all of the camp and kind of self-awareness. Like it's probably the last really scary one of the movies, because part seven's acted so badly. Like like you just don't really care too much. You know, like this one still has some talent. Like the actors are pretty decent, except for the deputy. Like, but everybody else is pretty on point. You know, it's got the jumps. You know, it's got some gore. It's got some really good, you know, straightforward kills to where it's, you know, it's a serviceable horror movie, as well as being kind of the emerging horror comedy meta thing that eventually became Scream, you know? So it's kind of the whole package. Like, that's a reason to watch it, is because it's good, like you say, in layers. Like, there's so many different aspects to it. You can enjoy it in multiple different ways.
Right.
So
cool. Yeah. So,
Disney princesses.
That's it.
Anybody got anything else they want to say about it?
I think we'll wrap it up there, I think.
Yeah. It's a strong film. It's fun.
All I got to say is one thing. Go watch it.
Yeah.
Yes, you won't regret that hour and a half of your life.
Don't sleep on that one.
Because you're going to love it.
All right, folks.
To me, that one is going to always be in my top 3.
Yep. I'm
For
with
me,
you,
it's
man.
Part 6, Part 3, and then you have to give props to the first one just because it started the franchise. But Part 6 and Part 3 are my 2 favorite ones by far.
Awesome.
I think Part 3 because I watched it 50 million times when I was a kid.
Did I say, does anybody want to chime in on what their favorites are?
Yeah. I see a 10 over there.
Yeah, I got I get what you're saying about 7, but you know, I gotta like 7.
I love 7, man. It's not good, but when I went and see it in the theater, I had the best time because it was so freaking ridiculous that I loved it.
I didn't say I didn't like it. I said it wasn't scary.
Right. Oh, yeah. It's definitely not scary.
It's not scary. You know, 7 kind of reminds me of I don't know, like Freddy versus Jason. Kind of like it's a little too polished or something.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I would say 6 is my favorite, and then 3 is really good, but I love the whole telekinetics 7 thing, and then Jason X. I love Jason X with David Cronenberg at the beginning. I love it for so many reasons. I'm gonna watch it again, and I'm gonna hate it. I think that's what's gonna happen. But I have fond memories of watching it in the past, and I might just keep it there.
Yeah, I love Part 4, and I think
me too.
But perhaps the reason I like Part 4 is I always loved the back of the VHS case where it showed, the inside of Tommy's bedroom with all of the monsters that he had made.
Yep.
And stuff. And I was like, and so like that world that Tommy lived in of like the special effects and the monster stuff in his room and stuff. I always thought that was the coolest stuff. I wanted to be that kid. And so like seeing it on screen where he's up in there and he makes all his masks and his makeup and stuff like that. And then the real monster comes to play and he's got to be resourceful to figure out how to take him down. That to me is always probably the coolest storyline inside of the franchise.
Yeah, I think the thing about these movies, especially with so many of them, it's really a matter of when you saw them. If you're at that age to where it made an impression on you or not. So for me, it's 2, 4, 6, and 7 are my favorites out of the bunch. And it's clearly because of when I saw them. I didn't see 3 till a bit later on. And I think, because of all the kooky trying to do the 3D thing. But
the harpoon was coming right at you, man.
But don't get me wrong. I really like 3
if you squint, you don't see the line that it's running on.
Yeah.
You just gotta.
Part 4
But-
also has the Crispin Glover dance. which is
Absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah.
And the
You know.
twins. Don't forget the twins.
The
in part
Doublemint
4.
twins.
Yeah. So I do. I love 4, man. I really do. and for some reason, I like part 2. It's so gritty.
Part
Yeah.
2 is actually, in my opinion, Potato Sack Jason is the scariest Jason.
I agree. I
By
agree.
far.
Yep. It's Town Dreaded Sundown, right? I mean,
Yep.
it's that kind of look. Yeah, man. There's something about the toe sack got me too, man.
Yeah.
Sure enough. All right. With that being said, we're going to take a little short break. We'll be right back at ya.
Available on iTunes, Spreaker, Stitcher Radio, and on our website at scarydad.com.
Real horror movie icons. Today we salute you, Mr. Horror Movie Sheriff's Deputy.
Mr. Horror Movie Sheriff Deputy!
Your dogged loyalty to your misguided sheriff is only rivaled by your lack of common sense or detecting skills.
Where is the crime scene?
Whether you're harassing a hapless suspect or tackling a werewolf in town square, you give it your all.
Look at me now, Mom.
So turn on the noise and the cherries, little buddy.
Wee, wee,
There's a streak
wee,
of
wee.
crimes you're never going to solve, but you won't stop trying.
No more on my watch.
Chances are, by the time you find the undead hulking killer, he'll be twisting your head off your neck.
Mr. Horror Movie Sheriff's Deputy.
Back in the 1980s, I can still remember how that summer camp used to make me smile. And I knew if I had my chance that I could get into Susie's pants and maybe we'd be happy for a while. The spooky music made me shiver with every jump scare I delivered. Bodies nailed on the doorstep. I couldn't take one more breath. And I can't remember if I cried when that monster knocked me on my side. But that spear was driven deep inside the day that Horseshack died. So bye-bye, Mr. Cocktail. Epstein's mother had a note, but Jason just didn't care. He chopped them to pieces and ripped them up like a flare, screaming, this'll be the day that I die. All them campers now gonna die.
All right, everybody. That's another episode. Put in a nice little box with a little bow tied on top just for you for this Halloween season. Or maybe we should say we dropped one in your bag. Oh, just mind the peanuts. But before we leave, I just want to make sure that our buddies here from Scary Dad kind of give you a lowdown on what's happening with them. They, like he said, Billy said earlier, they've kind of stopped making some shows, but there's a very big reason why. So, guys, y'all go ahead and just tell us what's happening.
Scott, you're the one running this Halloween thing. I'll let you talk about that one.
All right. So a while back, we interviewed some guys with the Houston Horror Film Festival, and local to Houston, they had never done a show before. And we kind of started talking about the things we had in common as far as our vision for the horror community in Houston. And once we got together and started doing some horror events, we initially started with some little single day events with a couple of celebrities and stuff. And within a year, the whole horror event thing that we've been doing is just absolutely blown up, man. It is incredible, the reception that we've gotten. It's been very impressive so far, needless to say, to where we started off with a one-day market where we had about 300 people, and within 4 months, we had a 3-day event where 4,000 people showed up for the weekend. And
Wow.
We've just been continuously doing that. Our one-day markets bring in about 1,000 people, and we actually have one coming up Halloween weekend. which when we first thought about doing this, we were looking at doing something in the fall. Never thought we would do something Halloween weekend because, of course, that's our favorite holiday. Most of us are pretty busy that weekend. And Ari Lemon came up to me one day and said, "Hey, I'm doing a concert at this bar in Katy, Texas, Halloween weekend. Why don't you guys do one of your markets?" And we were kind of, I don't know if we want to do that, but the reception we've gotten for this event is insane.
Wow.
We there's no way I could put any more vendors. The last single day market we did was at a brewery where we had about 1,000 people showed up, and we've already outsold the pre-sale tickets from that event for this event.
Wow.
So it's going to be a full day horror market with costume contests, vendors, celebrities there doing autographs and stuff. And then that night we're going to have a concert with Ari Lemon and First Jason. We're going to have Schism. We're going to have Schism, which is a pretty badass Tool cover band that's going to be out there. And then AJ Stone, who was Leatherface in the promos and some of the other scenes for Texas Chainsaw 3D. He used to be a club DJ, we found out. And he loves donning his Leatherface gear. So we're working on him doing a DJ set for a Halloween party where he's going to be in full Leatherface gear DJing. So
DJ Leatherface.
It's going to be a fun event.
Awesome.
So we're going to keep doing our single day markets, and our next big event is in July next year, weekend of July 24th through 26th, which is the third Houston Horror Film Festival, which we haven't announced any guests yet for that. We have about 13 under contract right now, and we're going to start announcing pretty soon. But that event has grown. The hotel we were at before, we thought we were going to do a 500-person event. Like I said, 4,000 people showed up. It was nuts. There was no more parking. People were fighting in the parking lot. It was insane. So we moved to a much bigger location, and we're expecting about 5,000 people this year. We're going to be a total of almost 40,000 square foot of show space. So it's going to be very, very good time.
And when we're talking like the kind of guests that we're getting, like for Halloween, we've got Captain Howdy from The Exorcist, right? Like we've got some, at our fortress, at our brewery single day market, we had Tom Matthews from Friday Part 6 and
we had
Return of the Living Dead. We had Linnea Quigley from Return. I mean, we had the cast of Rob Zombie's Halloween at the June show this last bit. We had Laura Park Lincoln from Part 7. So, I mean, and among others, I'm just spitballing names off the top of my head because we have so many. Felissa Rose has been at almost all of them, and she's just awesome. She shows up and she does in costume photo ops, and I think everything. I think everything that we've put on sale has sold out. Like it was funny about Felissa.
Awesome. You know how Texas Frightmare has Tom Savini?
Yeah,
that he just shows up every year.
Right.
Felissa is our Tom Savini at this point.
That's awesome.
You can pretty much expect that she's going to be at our show. She loves it. The last show before last that she was at a single day market, she actually called up one day and said, "Hey, you guys mind if I'll pay for my own hotel room? You guys mind if I come to the show?" We're like, "Oh yeah, come on down." And she kills it. The fans love her so much. She kills it every time she comes in.
Yeah, she's very, very approachable, super nice. I mean, you can't go wrong with her at all. And it's great that she loves that because that's what it takes, man. There's nothing worse than going to meet one of these icons and you can tell they'd rather be anywhere else than where they're at, So that's awesome.
So, and Scott's spearheading this one because October is a really busy month for me anyway, for all kinds of different reasons. And then they were like, "Hey, we're going to do this Halloween show." I was like, "I don't want to do one on Halloween weekend." They're like, "We're doing it anyway." I was like, "All right." I'll go show up and hang out for a while and do some stuff. But man, I got to take a nap because I'm pretty exhausted because I've had a lot of stuff going on myself. But so I just signed a publishing contract with Velox Books. It was a little bit weird because most of the time publishers reach out and they say, "Hey, we like what you've written in the past. We want you to write something new for us." These guys bought my old stuff. And then I'm in contract for at least one thing for them, but I'm not under any kind of pressure to write something. Just whatever I do, they get first crack at it. So they're re-releasing. I wrote a new story for one of my books. They wanted to expand and revised. So finished and revised the story for that one book, and then wrote a new story for the other one. And they're both going to be out by Halloween. So you'll be able to see, just I don't use a pen name. I use my formal name. So William Stuart.
Yeah.
So if you go Facebook or on the web or whatever, William Stuart Stories, the .com, the Facebook, the Instagram, that's all into the same bunch. But yeah, got books coming out, and then hopefully somebody important will read them, and I'll be doing Black Mirror soon. So.
Nice.
I use my surname too with a lot of stuff. I use hey, would you blow me? So
yeah, that's a good one.
Oh, hey,
it's a long signature though.
Yeah, it takes a while to write that one out. At least the G is pretty easy with the period,
I just got to ask at the event where you're going to have DJ Leatherface, are you going to serve chili? Because
we should be having a chili cook-off for that, to be honest with you. But.
Maybe you just give him like solo cups full of chili that he can throw at people while they're like, like.
Oh, that's one of them peppercorns.
That's awesome. I mean, it sounds like I see why you guys are super busy, and it's real life stuff, which is fantastic.
Yeah.
And this is actually AJ is going to be our third Leatherface that we've had. We've had Andrew Bernaski, we've had Bob Elmore, and now we're going to have AJ. So
that's awesome.
But yeah, and if you want to find us, just search on any social media platform, pretty much, for Houston Horror Film Festival, Houston Horror Events, and on Facebook, Scary Dad's Haunted Forum, and you can keep up with everything we're doing.
Yeah, and all those links, I'm hoping that as we go along, we'll share some of those links on our page as well. These guys hang out on the Hell Ming page too, so man, post all that stuff, because
cool.
I'm already, hey Danny, next we got to make a plan and go to one of their shows, man.
I would make plans for the July show. Absolutely, drive down, fly down, whatever you got to do to get down here.
Yeah, you don't want to miss that one.
You know the owners.
They'll take care of us.
We'll take care of you.
I promise you, the guest list will not disappoint. We haven't announced anybody yet, but it will not disappoint you at all.
Let me just tell you this. I mean, we've been to a lot of events. I've gotten autographs from my heroes, Dario Argento, Bruce Campbell, George Romero. Nothing beats the one that Billy sent me this year from Ginger Lynn.
She was she got so drunk that last day, but she is such a sweetheart. I mean, she is so nice, down to earth, the most down to earth person you can imagine. I mean,
the funny thing about it, because she's fully aware, she's got but she's so sweet and so personable and so friendly and just bubbly. And then she's talking to you about, like life in the universe and her grandchildren, all this stuff. And you look down her table and it's boobs everywhere. And you're just like, and she comes up, we're taking our, walking around taking selfies and stuff. She's like, does your wife know who I am? I was like, yeah. She's like, okay, I won't do that then. I'm like,
hey, I have to tell you, we had an event in Nashville one year and Marilyn Chambers was there. And I called my dad. I said, Dad, I just met one of your heroes. He said, Merle Haggard? I said, no, Marilyn Chambers. And he said, where are you at?
That's awesome.
I didn't know if he was planning a road trip or what, but oh, that's awesome. Well, guys, man, I can't say it enough. I mean, we've been wanting to do this for a long time, and it has not failed at all, man. This is exactly what I expected. Super awesome that we got to do this, man. I enjoyed every second of it. So you guys are welcome anytime. If there's another movie we want to cover, just say, hey, when can we come back on and talk about this one?
Let's do it, man.
Let's do it again soon.
Bring it on.
Because me and Billy, the people know, put us on your show. We can talk for a while.
Hey.
We're very passionate about the things we love, so
absolutely.
I can get into it.
Yeah. So we'll pick us another one, and we'll figure out what that is, and we'll just come on back and do it again, man.
Cool. I'm ready, man. Let's do it.
Appreciate y'all.
Thanks for having us, man. It's awesome.
Appreciate you coming on. It's a blast, man. Danny, you got anything?
It's just, thanks for being on board, and it's not hard to talk for a while about Friday Part 6.
Absolutely. Folks, we'll see you till next time. Adios!